Okay, so week 4 was last week. Today is week 5, our fifth lecture of the semester. What we did last week was we started the topic of notifications, and we will continue that today. We'll see whether we can wrap it up today or maybe it will spill over into the next class. So before we go into that, I just want to check in with you about your projects. Anybody has any questions or anything like that? Okay, no questions. So what we will do is for the project, you have all submitted your written description of what you're going to do. You will be required to make another submission shortly next week is the technical design, technical specifications. So in that you need to go into more detail. How many views, what types of views there are going to be, and what is the data structures underlying, how will you implement the functionality, all of that you will be required to submit. Before we do that, last week Hamza had brought up a point that how to structure these things. So what we might do is we might cover that before we require this submission. So you have a better idea of how to structure a project when it comes to implementation. So that is going to be the next stage of the project. So I see that you've just joined, Michelle. So hi, we had a round of hellos from everybody.
Yes, good morning. Sorry, I was a little slow this morning getting going.
No worries. So just now what we'll do is I want to recap what we did last week, and then we will continue from where we left off at the end of the last lecture. So let's see what we did last week. I want you guys to talk. Let's see the things we did last week. What were the topics or the tasks that we undertook? All right, one at a time, please.
We covered mainly notifications, local notification, and uh, no, actually, I don't remember much. I think I'm confusing it with iOS one. iOS, we finished the local, but in this one, uh, I think I was able to receive notification as well, the local notification at least with an icon but those are
Yes.
just one type of notification. We didn't look into remote notification, also heads up notification, something that is
Right.
like default in iOS. But I can receive notification in the notification center, or if the app is uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Good, good. So yes, notifications we did, we saw how we could see that icon that comes in the status bar. And when you pull down, you see the actual notification. That part we got done in Android also. How did
We
we
also,
start what was the type of activity we chose?
we also worked with basic activity
Yes, we did that.
and
Yeah.
looked into how that was structured and how it worked.
Yes, yes. So that was I thought an important part of the overall framework to know what all those files are that Android gives us, the Android Studio, to know what is where and how they are all connected. Otherwise, it seems kind of like black magic, that somehow these things work all together. But it's not mysterious, it's just a matter of knowing the sequence in which the system accesses those things. So yeah, those were the two main topics. We started off by looking at different types of notifications, and we, just like you said now, we looked at the basic activity, and we had this sort of in-class I left you guys to look at these things and we talked about them. What are these different XML files and how these connect all together, including the manifest. Everything starts there. So this is where we started looking at notifications, and we said we were going to use this page like a tutorial. We got to a point where you were able to build a notification and show it. I think we stopped after these first 4 bullets, and this was the task we said we were going to start with in this class, how to add a tap action. So what happens when you tap on it? So please open your projects from last time and run and see where we are right now, just to be sure. Okay. We actually didn't do it with this navigation. We didn't do anything with it. So what we implemented was that when this floating action button is touched, it generates a notification. And we see that an icon just appeared here. And this was the notification. Now it says timestamp is now. So it just came. And we actually, yes, so when we started, these notifications were only being received when the app was in the background. You guys remember that? That you had to be on the home screen to be able to see this notification.
Yogesh, I have
Yes.
a question.
Uh-huh.
When I click on my little Android face there, it
Mhm.
just flashes open. I can't get it to stay open so that I could read it. Yeah, it just kind of slides down and then disappears again when I click that.
Oh, so in your emulator?
Yeah,
Drag it down.
I'll drag it down. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. This is what you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to drag it down. Yeah,
Okay.
these things, uh,
Yeah.
are hard to perceive. Unless I say it, you have to drag it down. You just don't see that that is what is
Yeah,
happening.
that's what you're doing. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we've got up to this point. Now, what we want is the next step, which is to add a tap action. What does it do right now? Let's say if I was on the home screen and I tap on this notification, what happens in your apps?
It opens the app.
It is opening the app.
Yeah. If you double
Yeah,
click it.
your app was not already open. In my case, it doesn't do anything.
Let me try again.
How about it? How about the
No,
others?
it doesn't do anything.
Well, maybe it doesn't. Yeah, because probably the app was already. Let's see.
Yes. So that is our next task. What we want to do is we just want, when we tap on
No,
it,
it
we want
does.
something to happen.
It does open. Like if I double click it, it opens it.
Okay. Did you go ahead and implement something else, Shahrukh? I'm not getting that. Ravi said he's not getting. How about the others? What happens when you click on your notification? Click
Not
or double
not
click.
getting anything opening either.
Not getting anything.
Yeah, same for me. Not
Maybe I don't remember. Maybe I did. Maybe I.
Yes, it's possible that you have an extra something that is going on, Shahrukh. Yeah, so everybody else, nothing is happening. So let's take that. Let's start from there. We'll look at what you need to do in terms of implementation. So this is the page we'll go back to, the Android documentation. I have it open here. So we're looking at create a notification, and this is what we did last time. We used a builder object to create the notification. These were the steps really what we did. And to be able to deploy this, before we do that, we need to create a channel. In Android, notifications are delivered on a particular channel. So you need to have a channel for any version that is greater than Android O. So build.versioncodes.o, this is a static object. And O is Oreo, Android API 8, I think it is called. Once we have those things, we have the channel set up, we do the builder, and then we use the notify method of the notification manager to actually deliver the notification, to show it. To show the notification, we used the notify. Now what we want to do is set the notifications action. So what happens is in Android, everything is driven by intents. So you create an intent. The purpose of that intent is to launch your current class. They're using some class called alert details. We can use our own and set that as an intent. And there is a concept in Android called pending intent. So let's review what pending intent is. So in intent, what happens is that object has everything you need to create, let's say, to launch another activity, to launch a different app, any of those. Whereas a pending intent is something, an action that other applications can perform on your behalf at a later time. So what happens is when your notification is shown, when you tap on it, it's not your app that is handling it. It is going to be the operating system that is handling it, the notification manager of the operating system. So in order to be able to work with it, it needs to, let's say you want to launch your app. So you need an intent, and using that intent, you launch the app. But because it's being handled outside your app, you create what is called the pending intent object. So this is the key. By giving a pending intent to another application, you are granting it the right to perform the operation you have specified, as if the other application was yourself. So this is a security feature. So without a pending intent object, we won't be able to do that. Whereas an intent assumes that it's going to be operating within the activity, permissions are always there. Whatever your app has the permission to do, you could do that with the intent. So that's what we do. We first create an intent, and you will see that we create an intent, we give it the class name, and then we set some flags. Okay, let's take one step at a time. Let's add this line to our code. Where we are building the notification, over there we'll create these, you will add these 3 lines. So we were doing this in our notification, floating action button. So this is where we'll do intent equal to. So it needs two arguments, as we can see here. It needs a context and which activity to launch when this intent is executed. So for the context, what do we need? We need to be more specific. There it says this, but here our scope is different. Remember, we talked about it last time, that anytime we need a context, we have to refer to the containing class. This here, this code is in an object of type on-click listener. See, if I click here, this is what it will expand. Android does abbreviation, code abbreviation. It was compressed and it was green. So this is actually, this entire thing here is an object of type view.onClickListener. OnClickListener being an inner class of class view. So now if we want to pass the context, we have to pass the context of the main activity. So this is what we'll say, main activity dot this. And this intent, we want to launch the same app, right? The current app. So we'll give it main activity as the class. And this complaint that Android Studio keeps making, if you press Alt Enter, it should go away. So this is the intent. Now, what's happening is that if we look at the code, I'll give you a second to catch up with this, so you have it up to this point, and then we'll go back and look at the documentation. So here, there is another line of code, set flags. Let's skip that. It's optional, and we'll see what happens if we have it or if we don't have it. We'll just create a pending intent now from this intent that we have created and set the intent of the notification, the content intent. Content intent is what happens when you tap on the notification itself. Okay, so we'll add this line pending intent, and we retrieve by saying pending intent dot get activity. It takes 4 arguments. Let's find out what they are. Pending intent get activity. So it takes context, request code, intent, and something else that I can't read. So it takes a context, so the same as before, main activity dot this. You know what? Let's look at the documentation and see what those 4 arguments are. Dot get activity, this is the one we are using with 4 arguments. So it takes in a context, a request code, and intent flags. This one. Request code for the sender. And flags are the behavior. They determine the behavior. What is this pending intent doing? Returns an existing or new pending intent matching the given parameters. May return null only if flag no create has been supplied. So this will not return a null unless flag no create. And these, I'm going to leave it to you to determine what are these different options. What we'll do is we'll use the default behavior right now and continue from there. So for example, flag one shot. Flag indicating that this pending intent can be used only once. So what happens is pending intent has its own behavior. That object can be retained by whichever activity, whichever application is handling your pending intent, it could retain it. But based on these flags, it may or may not be able to use it again. So if it's a one shot, even though the object is retained, if it tries to invoke again, it will not work. So let's do that. We've got main activity and an integer. That was the second argument. Request code. So request code is I think we can give it any integer. This is probably an internal thing. So when this intent comes, we may be able to retrieve it and see what notification, or if we want to pass certain information. Okay. So we'll give it a code of 0 as there, and then we were using this intent, and the flag will use one shot. Okay. So this gives us a pending intent, an intent that can be executed later on behalf of our application. And this is what we need to set up here. So we'll say dot set content intent and provided the pending intent. It's possible, Shahrukh, that you have some of these lines of code.
Yes, I had those lines of code.
You have?
Because I remember last time, I think you discussed about opening it, and I just I was reading documentation and it was right there. So I
Yeah.
have intent and set content.
Good.
Yeah.
So sorry, Michelle, I did not understand your request. Good. Oh, you want me to make this left panel smaller?
Yes, just so I can see like the whole line. It's kind of getting cut off there. Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll do one better. I'm going to hide it.
Okay.
Can you also increase the font a little bit?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Studio preferences. I don't know why it doesn't remember these settings. Okay. So run the app now and let's see what happens. When you tap on the notification. Okay, I'm going to issue a new notification and see what it does. It launches the app, right? Okay. Is the behavior acceptable though? See, that notification is still there. Even though I click on it, it stays. But the second time, see, all these flags are now working there. We can see the thing. Because we specified the flag as one time, one shot action, now when I click on it, nothing happens. And this is not, what should be the behavior you expect? When you click on a notification, do you want to still see the notification in this status bar?
No.
No, right? And anytime a notification we touch, we want it to go away. So let's see how to do that. So notice that this code calls set auto cancel, which automatically removes the notification when the user taps it. So we need one more line here. Set auto cancel true. So it is going to, we don't need to do anything else. The system will take care of it for us. And okay, let's do that and see what happens. So we add that function called set auto cancel true. And now when we tap on it, it should go away. Okay, so my app is running. Let's see what happens. Yes, so it opened the app and it went away. Everybody has the same. Let's do it a couple of times. I want you all to do it a couple of times and we'll look at something else.
I'm not getting the notification now at all.
When you do the floating action button?
Oh, geez. Okay, never mind.
That's how we are triggering it. Okay, so if you do it a couple of times, after that, you see if we press, yeah, it cancels, right? It cancels every time. Now, in your app, you press the back button and see what happens. It stays on the same page. So what is happening is the way we have done it, we've altered the behavior of the back button. When you're on the first page of your app in Android, the very first page, and you press the back button, it goes to the home screen. It should come here. But it took me 3 taps to get here because I had already issued 2 notifications and this pending intent was passed along twice. That's where those flags come in that we saw in the code. In here, you see these flags. So what is happening is that each activity is getting, it's like a deck of cards. It's getting piled up on the previous. And when we say back, it's got the exact same activity below it. So we remove one card and we reveal the same activity. And if you do it 5 times with your floating action button, 5 notifications, and then you tap on it 5 times, you will have created a deck of 5 cards or 6 cards. And every time you press back, only one of them goes away. Whereas the user expects this is the first screen of the app. Back button should take me to the home screen. That's where these flags come in. So, and there is some detailed information here. It helps preserve the user's expected navigation experience after they open your app via notification. So this is something you need to know, that some notifications, for example, take WhatsApp. You've got a WhatsApp notification. Your friend has sent a message to you. You tap on it. It will take you directly to the chat page of the friend. At that point, a back button press should not take you to the home screen. The expected behavior is that it should go back to the previous page, which is the list of all the chats. So all of this you can configure using these flags. So an activity that exists in your app's regular app flow. In this case, starting the activity should create a back stack so that the user's expectations for the back and up buttons is preserved. So there, if we were going to page 2, we will have to do some setup so that when the user is pressing back, it goes back to page 1 instead of going to home. In our case, let's just try these flags. So what this is doing is, it is creating a new task and clearing any old stack if it is present. So we will do that intent.set flags, and we'll use these flags and see what happens. So run it now and see if the behavior has changed. What's the verdict? It works as we expected, right? Now, good. So this is, just to recap, this is what we did. We need an intent which allows the operating system to create an activity, but we put it into a pending intent. So not just our own application, other applications, in this case, whatever is handling the notifications, that application, it could be a service, it is an application, whatever it is, it gets the same permissions as your app and executes that intent. And this set flags is what allows us to determine the behavior of the back button action. Okay, let's carry on with this. Let's go a little bit further. Adding action buttons. Other actions. So here, what is going on is that, this example that they have given, it shows a snooze button. You may not want to open the app. You may just want to do something right there. Let's say it was a timer, you have an app like a kitchen timer. Timer beeps, you don't have to open the app. You can just dismiss it from here or snooze it. So those kind of actions can be provided. So the method, the philosophy is the same. The way we handle the tap, it's very similar to that, the way you handle this. What is going on here is you have created a pending intent, and instead of setting, well, this example here continues to show what happens when the notification is tapped using the pending intent, but it also adds this action, this one single line of code here, add action. It does three things. One is it adds a drawable an image for the snooze. It displays the string snooze, and it passes the snooze pending intent, which means what happens when this snooze button is touched. One of the concepts that Android has is what is called a broadcast receiver. A broadcast receiver is like a service that is continuously listening for things, that can be sent to it. So for example, a notification, when you hit this snooze, you may want this class, this particular broadcast receiver to receive a message and do something without actually opening the app. So this snooze, when you hit this, you're not going to be able to open the app, or you may not want to, let's put it that way. You may not want to, but you may still want some action to happen in the background. So that's where these broadcast receivers come, that they are invoked while the app is in the background, and they do something and then they go away. That is what this broadcast receiver is. I'm not sure if they have an example of it here. They don't. Let's look at the documentation. So understand that broadcast receiver does not come into the foreground. It will just handle intents in the background. So if you wanted to implement something like that, you would create an object of this type. This is an abstract class. So you will subclass this and create your own broadcast receiver and process this, whatever functions are needed. You don't have to implement all of them. You can choose which ones. Now, there may be some that are required to be implemented, whatever is abstract. On receive, you will have to implement at least that function. There is only one abstract function. Everything else has a default implementation. So this on receive is what you will implement. So what happens when that is received? And it receives a context and an intent, as you can imagine. And through this intent, you will receive parameters. So going back, let's see what happens. So on receive, right? So this broadcast receiver has a function called on receive. And here we are putting an extra parameter on the intent, that there is some value that we are passing of some parameter. So this is how it will happen. So in our case, if we let's take that same example we took of the dismissing a kitchen timer. You may have multiple timers going. So each timer, when you create, you will assign it an ID. And here you will say, put extra the ID of the timer for which the notification came. And then this will go to the broadcast receiver. How about we try an implementation of this? Let's do that. So this
Can we
is
also do how long to set the notification? You know how alarms they usually go on for a couple of minutes and then they disappear, so the notification stays there as well. I don't know if that's how in Android as well, but I know in iPhone when you get it and when you set an alarm, it just keeps going off until you turn it off.
Yeah, I think those behavior. Yeah, I've noticed that on an iPhone, on the iOS, it keeps going. It will go on for hours.
Yeah.
And on Android, I have seen that they ring for some time and then they become silent.
No, on
So
Android they become silent as well, but I don't know after some time, and because they have a default snooze. Like if you don't snooze, I think they snooze for 8 minutes or like some minutes, maybe less, and then they start again.
okay, it's
Yeah.
possible that those behaviors can be controlled. I don't know off the top of my head, but you may have some control over those things. Either the operating system will impose some restrictions because it is an abuse of system resources. So they may impose automatically, a limit on how long can your alert sounds play, for example. With a notification that is a timer, you will have a sound associated with it. So you're playing that sound. So there may be a limit on that, how long it plays. And then there you could implement things like, okay, if we don't hear from the user in terms of an action, then after so much time, there is another notification that is triggered. So those things should be possible, Shahrukh. Is that what you're
Would it be
getting?
possible with this uh the thing that you were teaching, a broadcast receiver? Is that what we're gonna use?
No, broadcast receiver only comes into play when whatever intent it is attached to, this pending intent,
Yeah.
when this comes into play, which is, see, what we are doing is we are creating this snooze pending intent and attaching it as an action to this snooze button. So unless the user hits this snooze, this will not come into play. The broadcast receiver will not
Oh, okay.
have anything to do with it. Broadcast receiver's job is to just listen. It's like, your radio. Unless you tune into a frequency, nothing will come in. So that
Okay.
is what it is doing. What you're asking is if there is a way to do, for example, automatically trigger another notification or control how long something, that
Yeah.
alarm sound is played. My guess is that you would have to use some other mechanism, not a broadcast receiver.
Okay.
So let's do this. We'll add a button, add an action, and we will receive it in a broadcast receiver. So first thing what we'll do is we'll add a broadcast receiver to our app. So as in iOS, as before here, we'll right click on this folder here under Java and we'll create a new Java class. Actually, let me see if it lets me create a new broadcast receiver directly. Okay, I don't see it. So we'll just create a class and we'll use the same name. So
And then if you click on the other option in the new,
in the new
there is, yeah,
other, oh, this. Oh,
yeah.
yes. Thank you, Ravi. That was Ravi, right? I didn't see who was speaking. My broadcast receiver. Okay. Creates a new broadcast receiver component and adds it to your Android manifest. So yes, so if we had done a Java class, we would have to actually go and add it to the manifest. So I'm going to say finish and we'll go and examine our manifest and see what changes were made. So wonderful. This has created our broadcast receiver, and this is the method we saw was the abstract method. So we've got a stub implementation of this. And over here in the manifest, we should see that there is a broadcast receiver. Yes, this line got added. So without this line, your app is not telling the operating system that this is a service that is going to be listening for any broadcasts. This is exactly how you would implement remote notifications, also actions. You know what happens when a remote notification comes in? The operating system is what receives it. And then it requires your app to have a broadcast receiver. So then the operating system broadcasts it to your app that, hey, this remote notification just came in, a new message or whatever, a phone call. So what we did just now, it allowed us to do both the steps in one shot, create a manifest entry as well as this file. We don't want this exception to be thrown. Instead, we just want, let's say we are going to produce a log message. And it requires a tag. I'm going to call it broadcast. And we'll say message received. So when we implement the button and we pass this on as the intent, when that button is tapped, this is where it will come and it will say message received. How do we pass information along? How do we retrieve the information that may have been associated with the notification? Same example, let's say an ID of the alarm or something, a user ID, message ID. How do we retrieve it here and display it along with this? Any ideas where it is sitting? Okay, let's look at this here. So this is what we will do. Just look at the code for now. Broadcast receiver, this is the intent. And with this intent, we are using two parameters, an action and an extra, put extra. So anything we want, we can put here. So when we are creating this notification, put extra on an intent is like adding parameters. You can add as many as you like of various types, integer, string. Let's look at the documentation of intent. Okay, how do I go there? Intent. So intent has this put extra and get extra functions. I think we used this last semester. You guys remember when we were doing the tic-tac-toe game? We used this to say, to pass along information of which game to open, for example, if you were looking at the past game, at a past game, right? So that's what it is. We have access to these functions. I'm just going to scroll to the relevant part. Lots and lots of functionality here. So you see put extra. These are the various put extra functions. So you can, the name is always a string, the name of the parameter, the extended data as it is called. You can have integers, floating point, strings, all sorts of things, arrays. So any of this kind of information can be passed. And then when the broadcast receiver gets it, you can just do the reverse of put extra, which is going to be get extra. So get extra, okay, has various implementations. So get double extra. You need to know what type you are retrieving. So get double extra, right? There should be a get int extra, which is here. There should be a get string extra. So depending upon what you passed, you can retrieve it. All right. So what I want to do at this point is, we'll go back here. I want to leave you guys for 10 minutes or so and see, leave meaning I want to leave a task for you. I'll still be here. You can take these, you have to create a pending intent, get a broadcast, get broadcast, assign it as the pending intent, and add this action. So what I want you to implement is, when we do this floating action button, we click on it, the notification comes. So here, let's say we want a button to show up, just like snooze. You can use whatever text, okay, cancel, whatever you want. Show that. And most importantly, what I want you to do is put as an extra the current time in milliseconds. The system time, put that. And in here, you retrieve it and display it. Do the get extra here and add it here. So we are at almost 11 o'clock. We usually take our break at 11:15, so that you have 15 minutes to do all of this. Add the button, figure out first of all, what is all this? Add that and create the intent, and then in the broadcast receiver, display the time which was associated with the intent using the put extra. How does this sound? And then after the break, we will look at it. Okay, good. You also have the option to work in pairs. If you want to work with somebody, just, or in a group, however you want, you can do that as well. All right, so go ahead and try that. And I'm here if you want to ask something. I'm here until your break time. And at 11:15, you can, and when you are done, even if you're done before that, just take a break and we will resume at 11:35. All right, all the best.